I think we've spoken about this.
Okay.
And we've spoken about like that feminine quality, right? I don't want to.
Of course.
Right?
Oh, you want to get into that?
We're getting into it a bit.
My
We're
gosh.
getting nitty gritty because I don't want people to mistake what you're saying as like you want a woman to be focusing on the home life and not have a career. I know that you feel because there's a lot of women that have careers that will be like, hey, but Alexander, I worked really hard for this and I went to school, all of these things.
Yeah, sure.
I think that you don't mind having a woman that has a career at all or something that motivates them because you love someone that works hard from what you've told me.
That's a very good point. Yeah.
But you want someone to be like, this is so important to me as well. Like somebody that can do both, right? Yeah. Because I think that people are trying to go too much to one side, like you can only do one or the other when I think you can do both, but it all depends on like prioritizing those things properly.
I want to be careful here because I am speaking to you and I know you. I know you very, very well when it comes to relationships. And Amber, I just want to say, you might be the most truly balanced person that I know, the most truly balanced woman. And that's why when we were earlier in the podcast, I wanted to make sure that people see how hard you've worked, because if they just follow you online or look at what you're doing on television or with your brands, your multiple brands now, they might think, oh, boss babe, all of those things, you know, and that's not the energy that I get from you when we're sitting down and talking and it's just you and I. And when it's just you and I hear about your heart for your family, how much you hurt when they're not doing well, and how much you have been the glue, the Band-Aid, you've given them the benefit of the doubt how many times, and how there's been times when no one's been on your side and you still pulled yourself up. I get to see that. Yeah. And that means a lot to me because I'm thinking, okay, when Amber does get married one day, I know that she's going to be with a guy who is getting someone who is resilient and they are strong and all of that. But on top of that, when I speak to you, you talk with glowing admiration for the type of mother you're going to be and the type of life you'll have with your children and all of that. So most people cannot do both the way that I've experienced that you talk about it. Because at the end of the day, life is about trade-offs and it's about priorities. And if you are dating me and you're leading the conversation with how much you love your career and all of that, that is absolutely fine. But the only reason for me to date someone at this point in my life is because I want to start a family with them. Yeah. And so if all of your conversation is about how proud you are with your job and all of that, I'm not getting to see the qualities that'll actually mean something to me, which is sacrifice and loving your family and doing all of those things. So I think it's hard for women because there's so much pressure on them for them to do everything.
Yeah.
And it's just not fair. That amount of pressure is not fair for anyone. I think the most important thing is that at each stage in your life, you're mindful and you think about what is the most important thing to me. Mm-hmm. Maybe when you're 25 or 35 or 45, those things will change. But just because you spent so much time building yourself into an awesome career person, it doesn't mean that age 35 or age 45, when you're looking at your life, you're saying, I want my legacy to be what I was able to do for this company and making money. You might say, my legacy is a beautiful family around me, and if that means I have to sacrifice what I've built to do that, fine. If I am able to do both, great. But if you're asking me what I'm most attracted to, I don't need someone who can do both. That's not important to me that they can do both.
Okay.
The hard work, the sacrifice, and the discipline that you get from building a career, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But they could be hard work, sacrifice, and discipline for working with children or working with wildlife or animals. I just need to see those traits.
Yeah, whatever it is hard work.
That's it. It doesn't. Yeah. But when
you're
we say
you're not saying they can't work or have a job, but you're saying not that that's not their primary focus.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And it's not even that it's not their primary focus. It's like if you define yourself by your career, and that's the number one way you define yourself, it's going to be a really tricky transition to being a primary caregiver. Yeah. Because with children, especially when they're young, it's a very selfless thing. Like there's a lot of sacrifice, and you don't get a lot of accolades, and you don't get promotions and all of that. And like I'm saying unapologetically, that's the most important thing to me.
Okay.
So if you have a different priority, that just means that we're not a great fit, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Who would have me anyway, Amber? Like, you didn't ask that question. Who would have me anyway?
Wasn't it a few years ago you were like the most eligible bachelor in Toronto?
2018, Toronto's most eligible bachelor. That was me, yes?
Yeah, I remember. So I'm just saying.
Yes.
It exists. You are a hot commodity in this city.
I appreciate it. But you know the cool thing, though? The best thing about Toronto?